Hello again. Here we are for part 10 of our Cinema 4D signature courseware. And in this section, we're going to talk about particles. Okay. Up here across the top, we've talked about our primitives and our curves and our NURBs and our arrays and our booleans and our other objects for our scene, cameras, lights, things like that, our bend objects. But this guy we have not talked about, and this is our particle tab. So I'm going to just do a very simple particle setup. We've got a little emitter here. And what we can do with this is generate particles, just like that. And again, just like cloth and the other things I showed you, put it in, press play, see how it looks. Do multiple things later when you're really, really comfortable with the software. For right now, do one thing at a time, see how it looks, and do a render. Now in this case, particles don't render. Okay, so why are they useful? Well, you can use them for a number of different things. And in this case, we're actually going to just make some objects fall out of this. We're going to make some coins. Okay. So let me just go back, though, and talk a little bit about how the particles work, and then we're going to set up a little mini tutorial making coins fall. And you can do this with dollar bills. You can do it with oranges, apples, whatever you want. Okay. So with this emitter added to our object manager, if you look in the attributes manager under particle, you've got a birth rate and a birth rate renderer. Now, basically what happens here, I'm going to let this play for about 150 frames. And we'll hit the play button. If you change the birth rate, you can see that a lot more particles are being emitted right from the start. Okay? You can even up it if you want. Just a ton of particles, okay? So that's the amount of particles coming out. And sometimes you might only need just like one or two particles coming out. Let's say you're replacing this with a couple of arrows or something that you wanted to shoot. You can just put a few of those in there, okay? So that's how the birth rate works. You get a visibility, the start time, the end time. We got 150 frames because we have 150 in our scene. And the full lifetime of the scene as well. Okay, and that's something we're going to play with later so that they continue all the way through. You can, of course, have a variation, which is kind of important. You don't want them just to all start and stop at the same time. Okay, so that's kind of a nice thing. As well as the rotation, the speed, and everything else. We're going to work with these a little bit more when we put some objects in, and that's where the show objects command comes in. If you click over to the emitter, it's a pyramid style. You can change it also as a cone and play with the size, make it a little bit wider. You can attach this to something, so if you remember how we did the cloth, you can take this and you can attach it to another object. You can actually move it around, create smoke-like things, just very simple. It doesn't have to be a huge, enormous scene. It could just be an accent. It could be little sparks under a wheel or things like that. Okay, so that is just kind of the basic overview of this particle emitter. That you put it in, you can animate it, do what you want with it, and those particles are emitting, and they'll react to your environment, which is kind of neat. But again, they don't render. So how would you do something to make them render? Well, we're going to add some objects to it. And quickly, I'm just going to show you how to do that. Let's put in some capsules. Okay, we're going to take that capsule, and we are going to size it down. Now, because we have a lot of these that we're going to be generating, we're going to come back to the capsule object itself, and let's just bring the height and all of this down. Just so it's, we're just doing a little setup here. We're not going to be rendering it closer. We're just making a very small object. Okay. From here, we're going to take the capsule and drop it into the emitter. And then when I hit Show Objects, all of those capsules are now being replaced, all the particles are being replaced by the capsules. Rotation, well, I can just put some rotation on here. And now I got a nice variation. So, take this a step further, which we're going to do in a little bit. We're going to make some animated blood cells. And if you pause this, and we'll take this here, let's add a light to the scene. And actually, let's not even do that. Watch this. Just here's a really simple way to render. Put a background in. Leave it at its default. Put even just a nice shader on there, on those. Let's double click this and let's make sure just some of these reflections are set okay. Let's just increase one of these reflection intensities like that. do a render, and now you've got a nice cool looking scene of all these just floating around. So very easy to set up, and actually looks really cool. And like the hair, I've worked with a lot of particle systems, and again, this is actually pretty easy to put those all in there. You don't have to jump through a lot of hoops and do that. Of course, you can see how much it slows down, but that works out pretty nicely. So very easy to put any kind of object you want on the emitter, and of course you can add another emitter or other objects to it as well. So let's go on to another video and do a full project. I'm going to show you how to make a raining little tower of coins, and then we're going to do something similar like this with a blood cell. And the reason I want to do that is a little bit more of a shading tutorial, as well as incorporating particles with it.